So I think everybody at this point has heard about the wonderful creations of master perfumer Alberto Moria's. Everything from Acqua di Gio by Giorgio Armani to CK1 by Calvin Klein to the numerous fragrances for the brand Bulgari and Gucci. The list goes on and on, even Versace Pour Homme. In today's episode, we have the brand new fragrance by the brand Mizensir. This is actually the perfumer's brand. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on the brand new fragrance called Anticonformiste or Anticonformiste. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on it, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on Anticonformiste or Anticonformiste by Mizensir, and I let you know what I think about it in terms of the smell, the performance, the notes, the evolution, comparisons, all that good stuff, I do want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or if you took something of value from today's episode. It would really mean a lot to me. Now, the thing that makes this one so special is the unorthodox or anti-conformist use of the molecule known as K-Lone. Now, a lot of you probably already know about K-Lone. It's used in tons of aquatic fragrances, everything from Cool Water to Acqua di Gio to CK1. And a lot of those fragrances, the latter two, were composed by Alberto Moria. So he actually took this ingredient and he utilized it in a way that kind of goes against what the established narrative or the way that you should go about using this fragrance denotes, or this fragrance molecule, I should say. So he used it in a manner where he kind of combined it with some, I suppose, unorthodox ingredients, or he created some disparate combination. So when you look at this fragrance, it does have Sichuan pepper in it, which can come across a bit on the darker side of things. There's gardenia, there's violet, so there are some floral elements. There's a touch of mint in the opening, nothing that is overwhelming in terms of its presence or the effect that it gives across, but it does have that undercurrent or that motif of freshness or that oceanic quality, but it does have some other really promising ingredients in here too. And I'll tell you what my interpretation of the anti-conformist title has to do with this fragrance, but let's go ahead and start things off with the presentation. Now, before I begin, I do want to mention the inspiration for this fragrance, and the perfumer was actually inspired by New York. It says, "For this homage to New York, I was inspired by the energy and feeling of freedom you feel there, especially when you're creating. To illustrate this, I started with the city's light, which is intense and almost white as it reflects off of buildings and carries into the flash of neon lights. This play of light is represented in the packaging design with a contrast of pure white against fluorescent net green. For the fragrance, I translated this using K-Lone, the same note I put into Acqua di Gio and CK1. This time I paired it with the floral duo of gardenia and violet leaf." So as soon as this fragrance opens up, you do get this really clean and smooth violet. And immediately, it might actually remind you of fragrances like L'Homme Libre by Yves Saint Laurent. Some of the darker iterances of, or iterations, I should say, of violet can actually kind of remind people of like Fahrenheit by Christian Dior, which kind of has like this petrol, burning asphalt kind of a vibe. You've heard people make some outlandish comparisons, I'm sure, but it actually has a clean vibe in here. As a matter of fact, as soon as I noticed that, in addition to some of the base notes that are in here, the tonka bean that's found in here, I thought to myself, you know what, this actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Bulgari Man, which is a 2010 release, also coincidentally composed by Alberto Morias. And I thought to myself, oh, this is kind of like a fresher, brighter Bulgari Man. At times, I also thought I was smelling a little bit of vetiver in here. I looked at the note breakdown, couldn't really find any vetiver, but there is vetiver in Bulgari Man, which is a little bit more on the spicier side of things. But this fragrance also has a spicy introduction in here as well in the form of the Sichuan pepper. So as I was looking at a lot of these ingredients, the gardenia, the violet, the pepper, the tonka bean, the mint, and of course the K-Lone above all else, I thought to myself, wow, This is a spicy, smooth, kind of warm, fresh fragrance. This is the type of fragrance that would come to mind whenever somebody mentions a compliment getter. When you're thinking about other fragrances that have utilized this very popular molecule known as cologne, which smells aquatic, you think of Acqua di Gio, you think of CK1, you think of Cool Water. Historically speaking, these fragrances have done really, really, really well among the populace, and they have also entered that compliment getter territory, which is kind of a colloquial title that we've bestowed upon many fresh, oftentimes oceanic fragrances that are mass appealing, and they generally tend to do well among other people, especially when you're in a crowded group. So this does have that freshness to it, but it also has this clean, smooth, elegant, sort of unisex, epicene, floral combination to it in the form of the violet and the gardenia. And I think it's so beautifully done, in the sense that you don't get too much cologne, you don't get too much violet, you don't get too much of any particular ingredient, but you kind of do get this mishmash or this hodgepodge of all of these ingredients. But when you look at the note breakdown, you're like, yeah, I get a little bit of pepper. Yeah, I get a little bit of mint. And the reason I say that is because I do feel like ultimately what is established is a bit of an abstract quality that I really enjoy. However, everything is sort of hidden in plain sight, right? So you do kind of, pick up on all of these ingredients once it's brought to your conspicuous attention, but everything is kind of hidden in plain sight, as it were. And I think it's beautifully done, very well put together, masterfully composed by a master perfumer, Alberto Morillas. And I do really enjoy the aquatic elements with that touch of tonka bean, just a little bit of a coumarinic dry down, nothing overtly gourmand or sweet or anything like that. As a matter of fact, for the first few hours that you're smelling this, you're gonna be like, no, I don't really get anything sweet per se. Not as sweet as you would with a lot of other tonka based heavy fragrances like Fève Délicieuse by Maison Dior or something like that. But it does kind of remind me of that clean, smooth, fresh tonka bean that you would get in like a Chanel's Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. So if you're familiar with that sort of a fresh tonka bean vibe, that's kind of what you can expect from this fragrance too. Exceptionally well done. Definitely one that I will be wearing to the office. I think it's a wonderful release from the brand. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, while it does have a lot of familiar ingredients, the violet, the cologne, the tonka bean, it's really the combination of these ingredients that makes this fragrance unique. It does kind of come across as a hybrid of Bulgari Man and even Chanel's Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. If you've tried both of those fragrances, I think there's something that it's kind of borrowing from each one of those, but the overall vibe is actually really nice. In terms of the longevity of this fragrance, I do get about, I would say, 8 hours longevity. Projection was great for the first 45 minutes of application, where it actually radiated beyond an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 5 or 6. It became a skin scent right around hour 8. It does have a lot of bright, fresh ingredients in here, not a whole lot of citrus to speak of, although I think there is citrol and citronellol, so it does have a lot of bright citrusy molecules that are kind of giving it a touch of effervescence in the opening. But in terms of their more direct use and a note breakdown, you're not going to find a whole lot. In terms of the versatility, I do think this one leans traditionally masculine. Some people might argue it's unisex. At the end of the day, wear what you like and wear what makes you happy. These are just recommendations. I think this is great for casual scenarios. I would say it's about 65% casual, 35% formal. Great for any time of the year except for the winter, I think, because it has that freshness to it. And I think this one is great for somebody who's a little bit younger, a bit more on the youthful side of things, because it is kind of gregarious and outgoing, and it has this almost at times like this sporty demeanor, but there is this undercurrent of class and elegance to it as well, on account of the gardenia and the violet. In terms of the presentation, I love the kind of allusion to the neon lights that are found in New York City, and the green kind of set as a backdrop, or the white set as a backdrop against the green accents on the box here and the green liquid inside the bottle. My final verdict on this fragrance is it's a great, really interesting, and of course anti anticonformistic use of the note of K-Lone. I really do like the way that it's introduced with all of these other ingredients, and I think Alberto Morillas really knocked it out of the park with this one. Beautiful fragrance. I can't recommend it enough. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you took something of value from this review. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell and give this video a thumbs up. Love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.